country with considerable hydropower potential is choosing to rely more and more on fossil fuel instead of promoting instead of investing in the production, in the generation of green energy, that is hydroelectricity. This country is choosing to increase its reliance on the dirty fuel, I mean the petroleum products whose prices have never been stable. In fact, the world is switching to this green energy. It is making every effort to switch to greener ways to run the economy. On the contrary, Nepal is increasing its reliance on petroleum products. Today's soft talk will just delve into this regressive switch. Welcome to the program. Today's presentation is titled Go Green. It draws heavily from the editorial published in the Annapurna Express in its Friday edition, but it is not limited to that piece alone. Petroleum pipelines in a country that can light homes, run industries, mass transit systems with its green energy, that is hydroelectricity, with a little bit of planning and with a little bit of a vision of the future. How does it sound? Sounds a bit odd, regressive even, doesn't it? This switch to petroleum products, this increasing reliance on petroleum products when there is ample potential for hydropower generation. Indeed, it is a step or two backwards. In international fora, like in COP, Nepal has pledged to reduce emissions drastically. A 2020 conclave bears testimony to Nepal's promise. Submitting its 2020 nationally determined commitments to the UNFCC Secretariat, the country, that is Nepal, pledged to devise and implement a low greenhouse gas emission development strategy to achieve what you call net GHG emissions by 2050, a commitment that the then Prime Minister reiterated during the Climate Ambition Summit. When it comes to making lofty promises, Nepal's political leadership has never been lagging behind. But when it comes to implementing these promises, much leaves to be desired. There is this huge gap between the commitments and their implementation. Nonetheless, that was a big promise from a country. What kind of a country? A country with a negligible carbon footprint. Despite such a small footprint, Nepal has been grappling with disproportionate effects of climate change. What are those effects? Those effects include receding snowline, glacial retreat, cloudburst, flash floods, droughts, and glacial lake outburst floods. Thanks to the Russia-Ukraine war that came right after the COVID-19 pandemic, Nepal has been witnessing an upward swing in petroleum prices for months. What has this upward swing been doing to the national economy? It has been driving consumer prices in a fossil fuel ruined economy. Mark my words, it is not a fossil fuel run economy. In fact, it is a fossil fuel ruined economy. And this upward swing in consumer prices as a result of hikes in petroleum prices has been adding to the miseries of the consumer with ever dipping purchasing power amid a deepening economic crisis. By the way, it is not only the war, it is not only the pandemic that has been taking a toll on Nepal's economy. Chronic instability, endemic corruption, institutionalized corruption, lack of good governance, lack of fiscal transparency, they all have been adding to an already bleak economic scenario. It is just this pretext the Russia-Ukraine war and the pandemic have taken their toll on the national economy, but these are not the only factors bleeding the national economy dry. Even when there was no pandemic and even when there was no war, the Nepali economy was not doing that well compared to uh, the economies of the neighborhood giants like India and China. Leave alone India and China, it was not doing well in comparison to the economies of Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka as well at that time. Things changed in course of a year or so. Now the Pakistani economy is in dire straits. Sri Lanka has been like bleeding dry, and not much different is the situation in Nepal. This state of affairs is likely to worsen further if the government does not take remedial measures. The situation is such that the people have lost count of the times that the state-owned petroleum monopoly, the Nepal Oil Corporation, has adjusted. In fact, adjusted is just uh, it is just a synonym for hiked prices. Uh, in the words of In the words of the Nepal Oil Corporation, fuel prices are always adjusted whenever they are. They are never hiked. But in fact, for the consumer, this adjustment means that they have to just sell some extra rupee to get a liter of petrol or diesel or kerosene. The Nepal Oil Corporation adjusts or hikes the prices of petroleum products based on the price list that the sole supplier that is the sole supplier is the Indian Oil Corporation sends to the Nepal Oil Corporation uh, every fortnight. In course of the past 6 months, the Nepal Oil Corporation has hiked the prices of several times, several hiked the prices of petroleum products several times. Ironically, Nepal is neither producing oil nor making arrangements for cheaper imports in the foreseeable future. So, fuel prices are not going down anytime soon, not in Nepal at least. As for India, it has been making hay while the sun shines, while the war sun shines. It has been importing crude from Russia at cheaper rates, and after refining the crude, it just pushes the refined oil to the markets in Europe and several other countries like Nepal. That's why, like, it has been making quite a fortune from this war. But we are not importing uh, the crude and going for processing, refining of those things. Instead, we are buying only at whatever rate the Indian Oil Corporation fixes. For India, Nepal is a monopoly market for oil, and for us, the Indian Oil Corporation is the sole supplier of petroleum products. Let's just read a bit into the international context. What are these countries? What are the countries around the world doing? They are moving away from the oil-based economy. They are seeking greener alternatives in every walk of national life, whether it's mass transit system, whether it's energy for heating, energy for cooking, and other purposes, every imaginable purpose. They are switching to greener alternatives like solar power, hydroelectricity, etc., etc. Against this backdrop, against this changing global trend, our government's obsession with petroleum products, our government's obsession with petroleum imports is beyond comprehension. This obsession got reflected also in the budget for the fiscal year 2023-24. This budget, what has it done for the petroleum products and for the electric vehicles? In fact, the budget has increased taxes on electric vehicles while lowering taxes on vehicles that run on fossil fuel. The world is going in a different direction, and Nepal is going exactly in the opposite direction. At a time when the world is trying every bit to decrease the consumption of dirty fuel, that is petroleum products, Nepal is trying every bit to increase the consumption of petroleum products. What's more, after his recent visit to India, Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal uh, made a major announcement in the Parliament of Nepal. What is this announcement? Let's talk about it. After his visit to India, the Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal informed the sovereign parliament of Nepal that the two sides, that is, Nepal and India, are gearing toward the construction of what? They are gearing toward the construction of a cross-border pipeline from Siliguri to Char Ali, from Siliguri in India to Char Ali of Jhapa. He announced that Nepal and India are going to build a cross-border pipeline from Siliguri of India to Char Ali of Jhapa. What's more, he also informed that the cross-border Motihari-Amlekganj petroleum pipeline will be extended up to Lothar of Chitwan district. In the same breath, the Prime Minister also talked about an understanding. What was that understanding? The understanding to build, mark my words, the understanding to build more petroleum pipelines within the country. What kind of a country? A country that supposedly has a huge hydropower potential, so much power it has, so much hydropower it can generate, that it can just light its homes, it can run its industries, it can run its mass transit systems using the green energy, that is hydroelectricity. In the same breath, the Prime Minister talked about lofty plans to export 10,000 megawatt of hydroelectricity to India within a decade. Wow. It should be not forgotten that when it comes to per capita power consumption, Nepal lags far behind than India. So the focus of the government should have been on just increasing the consumption of green energy so as to just reduce uh, the impact of emission, to reduce emissions, and just to protect the fragile environment of Nepal. It is home to some of the world's tallest peaks. It is home to uh, 8 out of 14 8,000ers, 14 peaks that are above 8,000 meters. Out of these 14 peaks that are more than 8,000 meters, Nepal is home to 8 of these 8,000ers. So it's a very beautiful country. Its carbon footprint is minimal, but despite its very negligible contribution to dirtying the globe, Nepal has been paying a disproportionate price of climate change, of global warming, in the form of flash floods, glacial retreat, uh, glacial lake outburst floods, uh, drought conditions, etc. Yes, over the years, it has made strides when it comes to nature conservations, to nature conservation. It has very successful uh, community forestry programs to offer to the world, to learn, to just offer lessons on nature conservation. Despite this, despite a negligible carbon footprint, and despite a very negligible role in dirtying the environment, Nepal has been constantly switching to uh, what you call hydrocarbons, to uh, sources of energy that are not environment friendly, sources of energy that are dirtier than hydroelectricity. So this is a matter of grave concern for Nepal and the Nepalese. It is this is a matter of concern also because uh, the cost of running an economy primarily on fossil fuel is pretty high. The wiser idea, the economically friendly idea is to switch to greener alternatives for running the national economy. And that is the increasing use of hydropower. But Nepal has been just moving away from hydropower to increased use of fossil fuel. That is a matter of concern in Nepal. That is a matter of concern for conservationists. That is a matter of concern for green energy specialists. That is a matter of concern for all those people out there who love the environment, for those who are concerned about the well-being of the world. It is a matter of concern for all those who want to see a cleaner, greener world. What we were talking about exporting 10,000 megawatts of hydroelectricity to India within a decade. This, despite the fact that uh, Nepal has a very suppressed demand for hydroelectricity. It should just increase the consumption of hydroelectricity to just energize its economy further. Not so long ago, we were grappling with power outages, what you call load shedding, extending to just almost a day, that kind of thing. From that bleak scenario, we have come over. Uh, Power outages are less frequent these days, but when it comes to increasing power consumption, when it comes to increasing the consumption of green energy, Nepal has lots and lots to do. Nepal has miles to go. But instead of focusing on increasing the consumption of green energy and replacing the petroleum products and switching to a green energy based economy, Nepal has been gearing more and more towards a fossil fuel based economy, which is polluting, which is dirty, and which is corrupt. That is a matter of concern. What's more, increased consumption of oil, fossil fuel, is sure to widen Nepal's trade deficit with India. How much is the trade deficit with India at present? It currently stands at a whopping 504.74 billion. The petroleum addiction will worsen air pollution in the country, thereby affecting public health as well as environmental well-being in one of the most climate vulnerable countries and taking a huge toll on its economy. So what should the government do? It's not clear whether the government will listen to us or will it. Chances are that it will listen more and more to the petroleum lobby instead of the people. It will be driven by the uh, offers, attractive offers that comes its way at the expense of Nepal and the Nepalese, at the expense of environmental well-being, at the expense of Nepal's international commitments to world bodies, a commitment aimed at reducing the consumption of petroleum products in the country, the commitment to switching to greener energy alternatives. Undoubtedly, the government should decrease petroleum consumption and promote the use of hydroelectricity through policy intervention. If it fails to do so, it will be no wonder if these pipelines, I mean petroleum pipelines, become some sort of albatross around Nepal's neck. That's a very scary scenario, isn't it? An albatross around Nepal's neck means Nepal cannot move. It means Nepal gets stuck. It means uh, the petroleum pipelines around Nepal's neck won't allow it to make strides in terms of national development, in terms of nature conservation, in terms of environmental well-being. So it's a pretty scary, pretty disastrous scenario. The cost of running a fossil fuel based economy is quite high for Nepal. It cannot afford it cannot afford to just stick to a petroleum product run economy, because the cost of running such an economy is quite high. When the prices of petroleum products increase, there is subsequent increase, there is this disproportionate increase in the prices of goods and services, something which the Nepali peoples cannot afford. They cannot make a living in such a scenario. So let better sense prevail before it's too late. Let better senses prevail before uh, the government starts the construction of pipelines, more and more petroleum pipelines. These pipelines, as I said earlier, will turn out to be albatross around Nepal's neck. We have come to the end of this program. Uh, we request you to listen to our presentation, to watch our presentation carefully, to comment on our presentation, subscribe to this channel. We need a huge subscriber base to just continue with citizen journalism. We ask you to subscribe in increasing numbers. We ask you to comment on our presentation and press that like button. Your gestures, your support means an awful lot to us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.